just having an effect on the Russian armed forces. I think that they feel that the effect on the Russian armed forces is not yet as impressive as they hope it will be if they manage to destroy a little bit more of that.
The defense, meanwhile, has said it shot down 144 Ukrainian drones, with 20 alone being eliminated over the Moscow region.
A swarm of 133 drones cuts through Moscow's night sky. Within minutes, billion-dollar towers and fuel arteries are burning. But here's the real question. How does a force with limited resources strike the very core of Russia's logistics while avoiding a catastrophic counterattack? This isn't just an isolated raid, it's a carefully staged playbook of drones, robots, and electronic warfare designed to paralyze Moscow's war engine.
Situation where about 20% of Russia's oil refining capacity is either completely out of commission or operating at reduced capacity.
Stay with me, because I'll show you how a single operation rewrote the rules for deep strike warfare and forced Russia to rethink its entire supply grid. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. A supply line can decide a war. Cut it in the open steppe, and soldiers grind to a halt. Cut it in the capital, and the ripple is far deeper. This is the story of Moscow's fuel depot, a hardened crown jewel built to keep armor rolling and strike jets screaming toward the front. It stood as a fortress disguised as infrastructure, thick walls, guarded zones, watch posts stacked around it like a steel ring. To most eyes, it looked untouchable. But war has a way of exposing cracks invisible until the right pressure is applied. Russia treated the site as the heartbeat of its war effort. Tanks parked in earthen revetments, artillery barrels facing outward, electronic masts reaching up like antenna towers to jam and deceive. Above them, fighters and patrol craft circled the skies as if daring anyone to test their reach. On paper, this overdressed bastion made a direct strike suicidal. You'd bleed machines and crews before reaching the gate. That was the expectation, baked into every defense plan. But then came the silence of rotary blades, their sound lost at high altitude. Reconnaissance drones climbed to between 8,000 and 12,000 feet, mapping not just what lay below but what waves pulsed through the air. Radar emissions, sensor sweeps, communication bursts, all stitched together into what analysts call a mosaic. If Russia thought its shield left no openings, those small drones showed otherwise.
And this is video of the fiery aftermath. The Kremlin says the strike could hurt ongoing peace talks with Ukraine.
They drifted like a web stretched against the heavens, probing each shadow where eyes failed to reach. You could picture them as steel dragonflies, each scan adding threads to an invisible net. From that net came the strike. Compact kamikaze drones nosed down through openings spotted by their recon kin. They didn't aim at tanks or walls. They took out the nerves first, the power relays that kept cameras buzzing, the watchtowers that fed data to control rooms, the comm masts that tied each guard post into a single organism. Knock those out and you don't just damage hardware, you blind the entire system. Within minutes, whole sectors of the depot died in silence. Spotlights shut down. Response times slowed. The fortress started to breathe unevenly. The contrast in expectation and reality was brutal.
The mayor of Moscow said there'd been another nighttime drone attack on the capital's business district, the second in 3 days.
A site that appeared wrapped in steel turned out to be layered like an onion. Each peel stripped not by brute artillery but by phased precision. First the scouts tearing away information gaps on high. Then the kamikazes slipping in to silence the nerves. And finally, small ground machines, robots no larger than a toolbox, moving through fringe roads. You can picture them crawling steady as beetles, carrying shaped charges that could bore into fortified gates. They rolled forward mapping wires, sniffing the soil for mines, and when needed, ramming entry points with directed blasts strong enough to open a corridor wide enough for men or heavier systems. That's the strange reality of modern combat.
Just having an effect on the Russian armed forces. I think that they feel that the effect on the Russian armed forces is not yet as impressive as they hope it will be if they manage to destroy a little bit more of that.
For decades, Doctrine prized tanks, battalions, whole trenches of men. But strategically, it's not the frontline hardware that starves an army, it's the hubs behind it. Fuel depots, power links, and pipelines function like arteries. Even a well-defended tank unit grinds useless if its next shipment of fuel never arrives. A single depot holds more influence on the pace of battle than squads of armor on the field. Ukraine recognized that weakness and turned tools that cost thousands against assets worth billions. Look at the outcome here. What seemed like a wall no storm could climb over was exposed as fragile when hit with precision at multiple layers.
Israel Defense, meanwhile, has said it shot down 144 Ukrainian drones, with 20 alone being eliminated over the Moscow region.
Defense planners had imagined brute strikes, missiles, artillery, bombs. But they weren't ready for cheap scouts, patient infiltrators, and robots shaping their attacks into surgical cuts. It was David and Goliath, except the sling was made of circuits, propellers, and shaped explosives rather than stones. And Goliath's armor, polished and confident, cracked faster than expected. Ukraine's transformation of off-the-shelf drones into lethal scalpels showed a truth Moscow did not want to face. The lifeline running through its capital was softer than its walls, more brittle than its armored patrols.
Appeared to be responsible with these drone strikes deep inside either Russian territory or Russian-controlled territory.
Defenses can fail not by one overwhelming blow, but by dozens of needling strikes coordinated in rhythm. And when the defenses failed here, corridors opened that no conventional assault could have forced. But even after the depot burned and Moscow's supply line faltered, the real contest moved somewhere less visible. Not on the ground. Not even in the smoke over the towers. The fight shifted into the electromagnetic spectrum and the skies, where control of information was worth more than fuel itself. The strike on Podolk wasn't only about buildings in flames. It proved that even a capital's deepest arteries can be cut with tools smaller than a truck. Drones mapped defenses. Robots split open gates. Electronic warfare turned strongholds into hollow shells. Precision beat brute force. Amid the smoke, Ukrainian medics treated wounded Russian soldiers. That image underscored both the victory's sharpness and its restraint. Moscow is left facing uncertainty. How do you guard when the enemy reshapes the battlefield with machines? Subscribe and join a community that seeks to understand the realities of modern conflict.